Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jillian Liota. I'm a contemporary and new adult romance author, and today I want to share with you 7 tips for working while traveling. If you didn't know, things in my life and my husband's life are a little hectic at the current moment. We are preparing for a big move. We live in Hawaii right now and are preparing for a move to Georgia. So pretty much opposite sides of the country. And we have been traveling a lot over the past couple of months, and it has really made me think about, if I'm going to be able to work while I'm traveling, how do I make sure I'm best prepared to do that? And it made me realize there are probably a lot of you who are thinking, oh, I could just take a trip and I could write while I could just, no big deal, super easy, I can write while I travel. And it can be easy, but it does require a little bit of preparation ahead of time. So I thought I would just make this little video, something short and sweet, as a suggestion for some ways to make sure that when you're traveling, you are utilizing your time as effectively as possible. Alright, so like I said, I have 7 tips, the first of which is make sure that you are bringing the right gear. Now this might seem like a pretty simple, straightforward thing. Like, obviously I'm going to bring my laptop if I need to write, the charger, a very easy thing to remember. But if you're trying to take into consideration the fact you're going to be working in a new environment and that you just won't have access to the same things as you normally do, there's a little more thought that might need to go into making sure that you have the right gear that you need to make your working time, your writing time, effective. An example is I bring noise canceling headphones, and I think it has become pretty common to travel with headphones at this point, but making sure that you have noise canceling ones, especially if you're traveling with family, maybe with children, or are a person who will need to utilize public spaces in order to work. It'll allow you to block out the sound of the people sitting around you, or family while you're staying in an Airbnb or a hotel. Another thing that I think can be very helpful is I utilize a backup hard drive. So essentially what I do is I take everything that's off of my computer and I put it into this, it's like a single terabyte backup hard drive. And I don't want to assume people don't know what that is, but essentially it takes everything off of my computer and puts it onto a tiny little drive that I can then plug into my laptop. And what I do is I keep my laptop completely clean of anything, and then I move things on and off of my backup hard drive. That way, when I'm traveling, I know that I have everything I need. When I was first, this is ridiculous. When I first started trying to work while writing, I would just email myself the document that I was writing in and not think about the fact that I might need spreadsheets that I left on my computer that had character details on them, or that I might need backup notes, things that I had cut and copied and pasted and moved outside of my primary, manuscript. Now I know that if I'm going to be traveling, I could need any number of things off of my computer, and so while I can't bring my computer, I can bring this little hard drive, and that just makes it easier for me to know that I have everything that I need. Another consideration to make sure that you have the right gear is potentially a hotspot. So something like your cell phone, if you work on a tablet or on your phone or on your laptop, because you might be in circumstances where you need to utilize the internet and there isn't any Wi-Fi available. Just something to think about if you are needing to do research for the work that you're doing, for the writing that you're doing. A couple of other additional things might be a magic keyboard if you work on a tablet, or a laptop stand. If you have something that's small and compact that can fit into your suitcases, and you're a person who needs your computer, up here in order to type on it. Everyone works best in a different environment, and thinking about whether or not you can slip those into your backpack or into your suitcase, and it won't take up that much space, is something that can completely change the outcome of the amount of work that you get done. The second thing I would suggest is to define your work zone early on. This might look like researching where you're going ahead of time, depending on where it is you're expecting to work from. I am not really a big fan of working in public spaces. Things like a coffee shop where people are coming and going all the time. It's too busy for me. It's very distracting. I will just sit and watch people for forever instead of actually getting work done. Something like a library may be a little bit better for me, but working in my hotel room or at the kitchen table in an Airbnb we're renting, those are going to be the better spots for me. But if you're a person who doesn't have a home office and are very comfortable utilizing coffee shops or public parks or university, central university spaces, central lounge spaces in hotels in order to work or write, then you'll be a lot more comfortable with those things, and spending some time researching where those spaces are, what their hours are, whether or not they have Wi-Fi, and figuring out where in your schedule you can fit time to go to those spaces. If you think about it ahead of time, it'll alleviate some of that worry, so that you can get more work done. The other thing I would add is don't try to make a big change on a vacation or on a trip. If you need to work in a home environment, use a home environment. The likelihood that you're going to be able to get any work done, or me at least, I'll just speak about myself, the likelihood that I would be able to get any work done in a Starbucks at all, ever, is almost zero. So it would be better for me to decide to not work on a trip than assume I could leave my hotel or my rental or my sister's house or whoever I'm visiting and go to a coffee shop. It would be foolish of me to expect to be able to get any work done. When it comes to researching that space ahead of time, it might be something like asking my sister, hey, I'm hoping to get an hour of work done each day that I'm in town. Is there a way that I can have access to a quiet space inside your house? And if she's like, heck yes, my husband and I sit and we do our Bible studies every morning. It'll be super quiet. You'll definitely have the time. That's great. Then I know that it's something that I'll be able to fit in at the house. But again, the most important part is thinking about that ahead of time, so that once you get there, you're not surprised when, oh no, I brought all this stuff, I'm planning to get this work done, and there's going to be children running around screaming in the house the whole time. My third tip is to pay attention to your connectivity and use it to your advantage. So what I mean when I say that is you are definitely going to have times when you have access to Wi-Fi that's wonderful, and access to limited Wi-Fi, and maybe access to no Wi-Fi. And paying attention to what those 3 periods of time are going to be, or when they're likely going to be, will help you decide what type of work I should do when. An example would be whenever we leave Hawaii and we fly to the mainland, for whatever reason, we never have Wi-Fi accessibility. I think it's something about going over the Pacific Ocean. Most airlines just don't want to provide it. So I know that I'm gonna have zero access to Wi-Fi. Even if I wanted to pay for it, I will have no Wi-Fi access when flying over the Pacific Ocean. So what am I gonna do during that time? Something that requires no Wi-Fi. It would be foolish of me to assume that I could do a lot of research on the plane if I know ahead of time that on the plane I'm not gonna have access to any type of research. Another example would be when you're in the airport. A lot of times airports have free Wi-Fi, but it's gonna be really, really limited on the data that you can transmit, right? So utilizing time in an airport and acknowledging, okay, I might have limited connectivity during this time will allow you to know that might not be the best time to send off a manuscript to somebody that's going to be, you know, a big attachment at the bottom of my email. Or that might be a better time to do some of that research stuff where it's just about kind of surfing the internet. But again, it's about utilizing that to your advantage. So identifying these are the times when I'll have little to no internet and whether that's a good or a bad thing, and identifying what tasks you want to accomplish during those times to make those times the most effective. Piggybacking on effective time management would be utilizing your downtime effectively, and that is tip number 4. So for me, that's gonna be evenings. Most of the time when we're traveling, we are going from Hawaii to either California or the Midwest or the East Coast, and so by the time that everyone else is going to bed, I'm like 6 hours ahead. I'm totally good. I've got plenty of time to work, you know, in the evening. And so I will just sit down and I will jam out in the evening and get a bunch of work in. For some of my family, they are total morning people. They can get up at 4, at 5, at 6, at whatever time, and that's when their mind is crystal clear. And so they will get up before everyone else and try and fit in that work before everyone's getting out of bed, before anyone else is even thinking about having any coffee. And that's utilizing your own routine effectively. But at the same time, it's not just about utilizing your routine, it's also about utilizing just general downtime. So, you know, again, piggybacking off of the previous one, times in the airport, times on the plane, times when you're just sitting in the car and everyone's kind of zoned out. There are plenty of times when there's really nothing to do and you can bang out a couple of words, you can flick off a couple of emails and, you know, check off some of the boxes for the things that you're hoping to accomplish. So like I said, it's really just about identifying those times that you can utilize effectively. Tip number 5 is to set your boundaries. And I know that this can be a lot more difficult for some people than others, but I'm still going to share it because it's such an important facet of trying to work while you're on a trip. The first part of this is making sure you're communicating with other people the fact that you're intending to work on your trip, especially if it's a vacation. You know, there's a difference. If you're traveling for work, that's one thing. But if you're going on a vacation with your family, if you're going on a vacation to go see people that you care about, or you're planning to just travel to have a good time, other people are impacted by the fact that you're working. So letting them know ahead of time, hey, here's what I'm hoping to accomplish, allows them a little bit of time to adjust their expectations for what it will look like. It will also allow you to set the boundary for yourself on what it is that you are hoping to accomplish. That meaning, if you say, hey, I need an hour so I can go focus on this, you know you've set that boundary for them, but you set it for yourself as well. I am only going to work on this for 1 hour today because today we're taking the kids to whatever location. So it works both ways. The first is protecting the time that you need, and the second is protecting the time that you're supposed to spend doing other things with the people you're traveling with. My 6th tip is probably going to be the hardest one. Well, maybe tip 7 will be the hardest one, but 6 will be hard in and of itself, and that's to promise yourself that you will have at least one day on your trip where you're not working. And I think that that can be really hard, especially for people who are writing on deadline or have things that they need to accomplish within a certain time frame, or who just have a routine of writing every day. Giving yourself permission to say, these are the days when I'm going to be working and these are the days when I'm not going to be working, will relax your mind and take such a huge amount of stress off of it, off of your shoulders, because you won't be feeling like you have to be productive every single day. And there's something about the expectation of productivity that drives some people and drives other people crazy. But giving yourself permission to not be productive and to instead just enjoy a part of your trip, I think will allow those other days to be more effective. Because then you're saying, you know what, yesterday I got that wonderful day where I just spent time with my partner and our kids. How wonderful was that? Today I know I really need to focus and jam on what I'm working on because I want another day like that tomorrow. And then my last tip, number 7, be realistic. And this is why I said I thought maybe 7 would actually be the most difficult thing to accomplish. I think in general, as writers, we tend to overpromise and underdeliver to ourselves. At least that's how I am. And so I create these huge lists of things that I think I can get done, and then end up not being able to accomplish a quarter of the things I had hoped for. And while I don't want to get down on myself about what I didn't accomplish, because it's important for me to be proud of what everything is a step forward. I need to be proud of that. But there can be something really frustrating about saying, I'm going to accomplish this on this trip, and then going on that trip and doing nothing, or going on that trip and only doing half of what you said. So setting realistic expectations for yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to this family reunion for 3 days. How much work do I really think I'm going to get done during that period of time? Where are the hours, like the individual little snippets of time where I'm going to be able to pull myself away from all the family that I'm hoping to see or that I'm excited to see during this family reunion? Where are the little pieces of time where I can slip away and try and get some work done? I feel like it's really important to not only be realistic, but almost set the bar low. If you set the bar low, especially the first time that you're trying to work while traveling, you'll have an easier time reaching that bar, and then you'll be able to identify, hey, this was a realistic expectation that I'd be able to work an hour a day on this trip. Whereas if you set the bar really, really high and you don't meet that bar, you have no way to gauge what might have been more effective on your next trip. So just as a recap, 7 tips again. The first is bring the right gear. The second is define your work zone early. The third is to identify connectivity and use it to your advantage. The fourth, which piggybacks on that, is to utilize your downtime effectively. Number 5 is to set your boundaries. Number 6 is to plan entire days where you're not working. And number 7 is to be realistic. Ultimately, I hope that this is helpful as you're figuring out your next vacation or your next work trip and wanting to make sure that you are able to get in as many words as possible or accomplish all of the tasks that you need to while you're in transit or moving around the country or the globe. All right, everyone, if you enjoyed this video and you thought this was helpful, make sure you click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, or drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you thought, or if you have any other suggestions for how to be effective when you are working while traveling. All right, everyone, have a fantastic day. Wishing you all the most success with all your words. Love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.